Sathyu sir, where do I start?
देखिए, सत्यु के बारे में बोलना इतना आसान नहीं है.
Satyu's entire body of work in theatre, spanning I think now over 60 years.
If someone who doesn't know him lands up at the set, you'll feel this is one of the set workers.
The carpenter ran away. I think it was Charlie's aunt, Alyque Padamsee. So he stayed awake all night and he made the set all by himself. Yes, he is very thorough with whatever he does. Yeah.
The liveliness of theatre and the freedom to work in very minimalistic style is something that he really used a lot.
He's very disciplined and he wants us to be disciplined only.
ओके राम 15 डेज में बना था. लाइटिंग कैसी होगी, सेट कितना चाहिए, कितना नहीं चाहिए, एक्टिंग कितना चाहिए, कितना नहीं चाहिए, हर एक चीज का एक मेजरमेंट है उनके पास.
वो परफेक्ट काम के आदमी है.
बकरी में एक बड़ा प्लेटफॉर्म, उसके ऊपर एक छोटा प्लेटफॉर्म और उस पर एक कुर्सी रखा हुआ, बस दैट्स ऑल.
So simple, but Satyu's designs is great in that.
He went on changing, experimenting with lights.
पानी की तरह वो लाइटिंग को हैंडल करते हैं.
He was master in those days also, and still today, you give him anything modern, he will do it.
In theatre, it's been much more symbolic and much more, a lot of metaphors in his work.
Well, for a long time he was professionally designing for a lot of Gujarati professional theatre. And in that, the grandeur and all was very important.
They're part and parcel of IPTA because 90% of plays of IPTA are designed by him. Concept of the set was so great that when in that play a bridge comes down from 8 feet or something, and Shabana just goes and catches that bridge and walks on that. He used to get standing ovation for that.
Any college kid can approach him and he'll be working with him.
थिएटर को ऑल इंडिया में कैसे डेवलप करें, ये उनके जहन में रहा होगा.
Giving that open space of making choices.
He had allowed me to enjoy my character.
Well, he's very patient and he doesn't lose his temper, but when he does, he really flies off the handle.
So he has got a very good sense of humor.
दाढ़ी नोचते रहते हैं और पूरा जो है आपका पूरा एक्सरे हो जाता है.
Sathyu has been guiding several cultural institutions on how to design a theatre.
Acoustics के लिए masterpiece चीज है वो.
Well, he helped with the Prithvi Theatre and with the Black Box in NCPA.
मेन पर्पस क्या है, ऑडियंस को कन्वे करना चीजों को.
He's been like a mentor for Rangashankara.
थिएटर है तो सब छोड़ के थिएटर के लिए चला आता है.
He's a lively person.
The humility, the humbleness that he has, I think you'll never find it any theatre person.
Congratulations, Sathyu.
Sathyu Saab, congratulations on receiving Lifetime Achievement Award.
Congratulations for getting this.
Satyu साहब बहुत मुबारक.
Congratulations to Sathyu.
So I'm sure Sathyu Saab is not going to stop here, whether Lifetime Achievement or not. I think he's still going to go on, march on and on and on.
Congratulations, Sathyu Saab, on receiving Thespo's Lifetime Achievement Award.
And now to say a few words about the man and to present the award, may I please invite on stage another living legend, the president of Theatre Group Bombay, the god of advertising, and the man who inspired my hairstyle, Mr. Alyque Padamsee.
Someone said, all the world's a stage, and most of the time, Sathyu has designed it. Well, it gives me great pleasure to be here this evening. Before I start reading the enormous citation that is here, I'd just like to say that in 1955, I first met MS Sathyu. Nobody ever called him by his first name. He's always known as MS or Sathyu. And I always wondered why a man was known by his initials. But then I realized also in Karnataka and in the South, a lot of people are known as RSVP and many other, many other initials. But basically, I met Sathyu when I was in a play directed by Zul Velani, a very brilliant actor and a very good director. And he said, I'm going to design the set. The set is going to be designed by MS Sathyu. And Sathyu came along and we all said, hello, hello, hello. And then at a theatre that no longer exists, which is very sad, at the Hill Grange High School, they had a fantastic outdoor auditorium and a huge stage. And what was interesting is that there was a building, well, that was the school building actually, and at the top of that building was a tower. And Sathyu and Zul got together and they decided to include the tower into the set. And he built a superb set, stretching, I think it must have been at least 100 feet wide, if I'm not mistaken. It was great for the designer, but it was hell for the actors, because to talk to someone you had to cross 100 feet. By the time you got there, you were out of breath. But basically, it was really a magnificent show. Really very magnificent. And what was wonderful about it was, on the second night, after the opening night, it rained. And we weren't expecting rain. It was in May, but we weren't expecting rain so early. And suddenly it poured down. And Zul, who was the director, said, no, we will go on. We will go on. And we went on. And the play continued, and of course the audience gave two sources of applause. One was for Shakespeare, and the second was for our courage and the fact that Sathyu's set did not melt down. It was a solid set. But let me say that Sathyu is a quiet but extremely a person who really, as Mies van der Rohe, the famous architect, said, he said, God is in the details. And Sathyu is a man who believes in the details. And I'm a great believer in that. I say it's wonderful to work with Sathyu because he doesn't leave anything to chance. He checks it and double checks it. And that, to me, is the meaning of perfection. His charming simplicity, of course, exudes both from his personality and his work, along with his enormous patience, because things always go wrong in the theatre. And remember, the theatre, as all of you know, because you're all from the theatre, we don't have huge budgets, to spend. We're lucky if we get a few thousands, forget about crores of rupees. So everything has to be done on a minimal scale, but it has to work. And that's what I like about Sathyu, is that his sets work. They work in the impact on the audience, and they work because stairs don't suddenly give way as you're coming down, which can land into a lot of hospital bills. Anyway, the directness and innovative design brought the theatre a long way. He was early, we're talking about 1955. Am I right, Sathyu? 1955, Othello? Huh? Yeah. Hill Grange School? Yeah. And that suddenly became a very important part of theatre. Otherwise, very often you'd get 3 black boxes on the stage and a white curtain as the background, and that is the set. That is it. Take it or leave it. But he brought to it a really interesting observation that the set can help the actor get into his role. if he feels the atmosphere, and particularly in Shakespeare obviously, but in almost any play, and once he gets onto the stage, it is no longer a stage. It is a place where the actor actually becomes someone else. And unless that becoming someone else is, given the right setting, the right background, it doesn't work. Though Sathyu at times can be very simple. Someone once said to me, just a red scarf on the stage, and the stage is absolutely blank except for a red scarf, can tell you sometimes more than the sets they have in movies like Mughal-e-Azam and others. So he has this idea of bringing simplicity, but at the same time great detail. He is also a director. He has directed many plays, and he's never shied away. And that's wonderful, because I think theatre tends to hide behind a veil. We don't talk about things that are happening in our own country, political, social, etc. But he never shies away from that. He's always there, and a social vigor to his plays like Bakri, Mote Ram ke Satyagraha, which was a very, very, very direct play, and many others. He never shied away from the relevance of his play to the public itself. No wonder then that he has been the recipient of the Padma Shri and the Sangeet Natak Academy Award. And so awards are not very important to this man. Who is very important to this man, and I must say it, Sathyu, I'm sorry, but I have to bring it up, is his darling wife, who I have had the pleasure of working with on one occasion, and she is just brilliant, and Shama is got a way of particularly writing, which is wonderful, and that brings me to the most amazing landmark in Indian cinema. It is one of the finest works that I have seen on the screen in India, and that is Garam Hawa. Garam Hawa was at the Cannes Award. It was given a commendation, nominated, and it is a film that, talking about the Great Partition, remember we are talking about the 50s, when the partition was still raw, very raw. And it's a brilliantly written film by Shama and a brilliantly directed film by M.S. Sathyu. And it was something that I haven't quite seen in all these years on the Indian screen. It was very simply made on a shoestring budget, literally. But it moved the audience. And thank God, some years later, many years later, they managed to revive it, in a sense that at that time he had very little money, but he persevered and managed to make the film on, as I said, a shoestring budget. I'd say even less than, whatever is less than a shoestring. And they made it. And they showed it. And at that time only to a private audience, because they couldn't get a distributor to handle it. It was a very, let's say, sensitive subject, because it was about Muslims in India deciding in the partition to go across to Pakistan and not stay in India. So it was a very sensitive topic at that time. But he did it. And it has, in my opinion, it is one of the finest films made in India. And I really think that even though he's done 100 plays, involved in 100 plays, and his work spans six decades, he still continues with the same momentum and dedication as when he first started. For this and for many other achievements, we salute M.S. Sathyu by presenting him with the Thespo Award for Lifetime Achievement in the Theatre. Big hand. Come on stage if you can manage those stairs, which I can't, by the way. Come on stage and get ready to receive your award.
forgot
Yeah.
that I met him in 1952
Two.
in Kulsum Terrace.
Yes. What were we
They were
doing?
rehearsing a play,
Yes.
and I had gone there to watch the play. And that used to be the place where a lot of the theatre groups productions were directed, and they rehearsed there, and they would stage various places. That was the first time I went to, because I came to Bombay in 1952 after giving up my
Do
college.
you have a mic, please?
Sure.
Yeah. There it is. Yeah. It's on.
Hello. Yeah. So, I mean, I can understand later on we became much closer. We also did one play together, I think. It was staged at the Open Air Theatre on Walkeshwar Road. You remember? You did the Polonius. You did the Polonius.
Oh, Hamlet. You don't know
Yeah.
Hamlet?
Yeah.
Ah.
Huh?
Yeah, that was
That
it.
was
I did
later?
Hamlet in 1964.
No. Huh?
Yeah. No.
Anyway, it was on Walkeshwar Road. There
No,
was
but I'm so glad you
open
reminded me
hall.
of Kulsum Terrace, which
Yeah.
that's where we used to stage plays on the terrace.
Yeah, I know.
And now it's coming back to me. Yes, you were there because Zul. I was
Yeah.
directing Zul in a play, Candida, Bernard Shaw's Candida.
Yeah, that's right.
And he brought you along. Now it's come back to me.
And actually, he mentioned about Othello, and we used the Hillgrange High School tower,
Yes.
and he played Desdemona's father, and he would be there on the tower,
Yeah.
and from there he had to run down
Yeah.
to the stage. I remember that.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
That whole thing was included into the set, and the set was actually was constructed by the workers of Mughal-e-Azam.
Ah.
Asif Saab gave us all the facilities, all the material to put up the set. Zul knew Asif Saab, and he sent his carpenters and all, and we erected the stage. And there was no sketch of mine, And it so happened, some people from England had come to watch the play.
Yeah.
And they were going to Sydney. And they were from the Shakespearean Society in London. And they wanted a set design. And I didn't have a design, I didn't have anything. So, but Derek Jeffries, who did the lighting for us, you remember?
Yeah, it's a great man.
Yeah. So he had made a little cutout, sort of cardboard cutout, for the green room party, and he had put it on the cake. Then that was the only reference which was available. And he cut the cake, he ate it, and threw away that cardboard cutout. And later on, I picked up that cutout, and the Shakespearean people, they wrote a letter to theatre group.
Yeah.
And we sent that cutout to London, and it is still there in the museum. Yeah.
Well, I'm off. I've done my little turn for the evening.
Anyway, thank you, Alyque.
No,
for,
on the contrary, it is not much more. This is just a small memento of your enormous work over 60 years. I can't.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Well, thank you, Mr. Padamsee, for presenting the award. And thank you, Mr. Sathyu, for sharing all those wonderful memories. We're not going to let you off the hook just yet. Since we've got you, we're going to keep you for a little longer, keep you captive, because we've decided to take full advantage of the situation. I'd now like to invite former Thespo organizing member Bhagirathi Raman to be in conversation with Mr. M.S. Sathyu.
with all of this, congratulations. Hello?
Yeah, no.
It's safe to say I've really never been on stage. But congratulations. And of the many stories we would love to hear from your 60 years and over 100 plays as both director and set designer. One of the main questions I wanted to ask you is, what, if it's safe to ask, what's one of the most exciting plays you've worked on?
Exciting.
Uh-huh.
Please.
Please.
There are too many. I don't know. I did a lot of plays. Actually, you know, why I started designing is when I came from Bangalore, in 1952 I came and I wanted to get into films, not as an actor or anything, but I wanted to work as a technician. And I was unable to get any opening. Then I started meeting a lot of theatre people, and then I started working with them, because that was the easiest thing because I didn't know the local languages in Bombay. I didn't know Marathi, I didn't know Gujarati, I didn't know Hindi or Urdu or Sindhi. I knew a little bit of English, and then I knew my mother tongue, Kannada, and a little bit of Tamil, which I knew. I spoke Tamil. So I thought the best way I should use my time is to do backstage work. So I concentrated on designing sets, because I had a flair for drawing, and I used to copy a lot of painters in my spare time. It was a hobby of mine. I used to sketch, and that's how I didn't go to any art school as such, or any film school as such, or any drama school as such. You know, I've never been trained in anything, but learned everything by experimentation. And so that's how I got into designing, and designing was the only thing that I could do. And first I started designing for the theatre, then I went into films to make a living. And in fact, Alyque helped me a lot in that also. I made a lot of ad films for Lintas and Clarion McCann and Walter Thompson. I mean, all these companies, I made films. I mean, if you know that the very first film on Coca-Cola was made by me when it came to India. And Sharon sang the little song in that, a jingle called Things Go Better with Coca-Cola. So that's how it started, and I had a very interesting, do you mind if I say? Oh no. Interesting thing that Alyque was doing, and he said, I'm doing a film on some sandal soap, he said. I said, okay. So we were shooting somewhere in Worli, in somebody's house. I don't know whose house it was. I don't remember now, on the Worli Sea Face. And he had a very beautiful Air India girl, an hostess, to participate in it. I don't know her name either. And then he said, we'll have a tub. And she is inside the tub, and we'll put... I said, we are doing a film on a cake of soap. Why tub? He said, you don't know. This is advertising it. So we got some gels and put the thing in it. Abu Sivani was my partner, and Ishan Arya was the cameraman. So Abu said, hey, how much gel should we put? I said, I don't know. It was a Sunday. And then he brought. And then gel finished. And then Alyque, and as usual, is so commanding, and we were scared of him. And Abu was even scared much more because he was also a member of the theatre group. Then he said, Sathyu, there is no more gel. It's finished. Shops are all closed. Today is Sunday. I said, what to do now? He said, go and get some surf. So we put surf and lathered it up and made that girl lie down inside. This is also advertising. Okay.
So with the experimentation and the discovery that maybe surf can throw up some more lather than gel, what about when using the same thing in theatre, when using it for your stage design or set design, like materials like for Rashomon or so on? How?
You see, the use of different types of material is what makes architecture. And today, there are thousands of new materials which have come in. So you have to be aware of that. You have to move around and see in the market what kind of new building materials are coming in. Now, there was a film long back, made an American film on an architect, Frank Lloyd Wright, I think. And he built a very futuristic kind of a set made of glass. Even the staircase was made out of glass. I don't know if some of you might have seen it in 1958. It was made, I think. And this film, it was so new, something totally out of this world. I mean, nobody thought of making a glass staircase. So that is how now glass has become a common, product which is used in buildings. Everywhere you find glass, and badly used also. Many times it is badly used. And they have this tinted blue surface and things like that. It's horrible to look at. The buildings are all so. You see, there are two things which happen in the world. I mean, in terms of visual of a city. The one thing is about the beautiful heritage buildings, and the other thing is a beautiful modern architecture. But both have been ruined by advertising. The advertising hoardings are so huge that it covers up every building, no matter when it was built. So that's why when Corbusier, when he designed Chandigarh, he said no hoardings will be put in this city. And there is no hoarding in Chandigarh, political or of any product, And that's how it has been saved. That's the only city in the world, I think, which has no hoardings. So we have to think about this very much, the use of new material, and that's what makes a new set. So now you see, you don't have to use glass. You have so many things which look like glass and durable, because the set is put up in a hurry. You get the theatre for a few hours, and then you have to remove it because the next show is there. Someone else's set has to be put. So there is no time at all. So use material which is available, but use them in such a manner that you can remove it also as easily.
Can you give us an example of something like this that you've done, that you've wanted to work with, say with glass and with light?
Yeah, I did one play. It was a Russian play. Schwartz wrote a play called The Dragon. In those days, Gogol and Schwartz and all these people, they did anti-Soviet plays. anti-establishment plays in Russia, and say they camouflaged the whole thing into a children's play. And so when we did Dragon, which was translated into Urdu by Javed Siddiqui and called it Rakshas, I used a stained glass as the set. Everything is like stained glass. Now we had to we didn't use glass. We used a polythene sheet which we sprayed with a paint. And it was a paint used for cars, and it has a transparency. You can't brush it. If you brush it, it becomes opaque. You needed a transparency because the glass windows, these windows in the churches and all that you see, there is a transparency in that. So I used that kind of a thing when I did that set.
So even with something like this, if you use stained glass for the dragon and so on, how did you decide on the style, the visual style of the plays that you worked on, either as a director or a designer or even both?
You see, I've designed plays for totally commercial productions where there is a lot of money and they can spend, because it depends on that. The whole production, the look of a production. In many of the Gujarati theatres was like that, and especially Praveen Joshi's productions, which I did. A lot of them I did, and I also worked in ballets like Dekhte Di Bombay with Parvati Kumar, who was the choreographer, and I also worked on a ballet, Discovery of India, and other things. So there I used to experiment, because the INT was one of the leading theatre groups which had a lot of money and they could spend on the sets. They had a big godown in Babulnath temple, and that's where they constructed their sets and stored the sets, and they had a huge staff and painters and carpenters and technicians, So I enjoyed doing things there. I experimented a lot with them. And Praveen was very good as a person who would look for a good visual always. And I enjoyed working with Praveen. I remember a play which I designed for him, like Chandarvo, Tilottama, Sapnana Vavetar, and Kumarni Agashi. Kumarni Agashi is a very interesting play. Actually, Gautam Joshi of INT had designed the stage for that, and they got stuck. They didn't know how to do the Agashi set, the terrace. So one night at around 11 o'clock in the night, there was a knock at my door in Juhu, and then I open the door and I find Praveen standing there. Chalo, set banana hai. Arey, 11 baje set banana hai, kya baat kar? नहीं, चलो बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है, संडे को ओपनिंग है और आ जा रहे हो तुम सेट के लिए? हाँ ठीक. So we went to Juhu hotel. Marriott and all that were not there in those days. Juhu hotel was the best hotel in those days, and we went there and sat on the outside in the restaurant and ordered for some beer, and we had some beer and said, ये कहानी है, ये मदुराई की play है, Kumarni Agashi, and then he told me what the action is on the Agashi, what happens. So I thought about it. Then there were 3 sets, 3 locations in that, but I had to design only one location, which is this. So I sketched it on the napkin there itself on the table, and I said, this is your set. Many times it has happened, I don't have a piece of paper and I design anywhere, even on a tablecloth I design. I've done this kind of thing all along. And then he says, ठीक है तो कल बाबुलनाथ आ जाना, construction कर देंगे. So went to Babalnath and we constructed the stage. But I know my set was very different from what Gautam has done for the other two scenes. I said, this won't gel with that, but still, if you want it because of your action. And there is a suicide in that in the end, and then this fellow falls down from the... And the stage where they were doing had only 16 feet depth, that is Jahind College. And there you to create a whole terrace. So I made a metal finished water tank with bolts and nuts and all that, and colored it and chipped it off, and then we had the whole action done, and then that fellow falls from there and then he dies or something. So this kind of a thing happened, and I know my set did not gel with the other two sets, But anyway, in Gujarati theatre, sab chalta hai. So we managed that.
To take off on this, with your set not gelling with the other sets, you mentioned something about authenticity and how you like to keep that.
This authenticity is a vague word. I mean, you see so many films, let us say, of the Roman period or something. Do you mean to say people wore those clothes? They never wore those. All European gowns the women wear with a little drape on top. That's all they do it, I mean, even if you take Troy, for example, the recent film, a few years back it was made, Brad Pitt, he wears a lungi in the tent. Mind you, that lungi was made from a kalamkari from Rajasthan. They sourced all the cups and everything, even the wine glass and wine. It was a metal one. And all that was sourced from Jaipur, and they did that. But there is nothing authentic about it. We don't know how those people lived and how they wore, what kind of clothes they wore, So you have to create an ambience, make it convincing, and have a style, and keep to that style, And that's how designers do it. Nobody will question you afterwards, Now, if you see Mughal-e-Azam here, the next theatre in January, you will go and see the sets. Huge set, spectacular. And Manish Malhotra has done the costumes. But nobody wore that costume in the Mughal period. But who cares? Manish Malhotra. Authenticity has no meaning in theatre, in designing. You have to, I did Sam Kerewala's play, Vasavadatta. Vasavadatta is a play written by Aurobindo. And it's a set, and then he wanted to do that very historical kind of stuff in the Prithvi Theatre. Prithvi Theatre is such a small theatre, small stage. And then you have to have this grandeur. So I created some pillars and then a courtyard and treated with thermocol. I painted it like stone, different colored stone. And the whole thing takes place between Avanti, one of the states, and the other one is the Magadha. So between these two, so I had one flag in the middle to suggest that this is Avanti And if it turns like that, it becomes Magadha. The rest of the stage is the same. It's simple. One, when you churn butter, you use a rope on the churner, and it goes round like that. And then you pull it, it turns. You pull it, it turns like that. That's exactly what I did. I had a rope running, that's all. And the flag, which was like this, would become like that. And it was written Ma and A. Magadha and Avanti. The set change was so simple. Anybody could do it, So these are innovations that you have to think of when you are doing something like that. And the rest of it was there. The costuming and all that. Because there is no reference available. But suppose you want to do something about the Ashoka period, what reference do you have? You remember Ashoka done by Shah Rukh Khan? Is that what Kareena Kapoor was wearing? What they wore? She wore something, such awful costumes that she wore. But people don't care. You just see the beauty of the girl, that's all. That's it.
On that note, shall we open the floor for any questions that anyone might have?
You might have too many questions. Brief questions, brief answers. Is there any question at all? No, it is not yet out. There is some problem with the person who has converted it into... we restored the entire film in Bombay, the visual, and we sent the soundtrack, which was a mixed track, from the film to Los Angeles. And there at the Deluxe Studios, it was converted into Dolby Digital 7+1. I don't know, they have a technology to from a mixed track to divide it into, I don't know, they work on certain sound frequencies, I think, and that's how they managed it. And it is very beautiful, now to look at, and also the sound to hear, the Dolby Digital sound, it's really an amazing thing that they have done. But unfortunately, my person who has done this is a builder in Pune. And his interest is much more in building, and now after demonetization is in hiding all the money or something, I don't know, converting a lot of 1,000 rupee notes. He's too busy with that, and so we've not been able to release that DVD as yet. I hope it is given to the public to see. Because, although it is 43 years after the film was actually made, still it somehow has a relevance. Because the situation has not changed, even it has gone worse now. After this BJP government has come in, it has become worse. The India-Pakistan relationship is gone, totally gone. Even we can't play cricket. What has happened to this country? We can't play cricket. And India-Pakistan cricket is one of the most exciting things. And the Shiv Sena doesn't allow it to happen. We are in a very bad situation, But nobody is there to fight this. Anyway, question, yeah, somebody's hand. Stand up. No, I can't see her.
More about Garm Hawa, when you actually made it and when it was seen by a limited number of people, what was the reaction like? How was it received then?
Oh, that way. You see, when the film I was making...
Also, I saw it at
Yeah, Mami Festival we showed it. That was the restored version we showed. You know what happened when I was making the film, and in Ramnaud Lab we used to process and edit the film, and we used to make, after editing each scene, we would go to the theatre and project it and see for ourselves, you know. But some other technicians normally come inside and then watch the thing. So they said, "Ye, isko censor certificate nahi milega." My first film, censor certificate nahi milega, you know. I said, "Why?" नहीं, ये subject censor pass नहीं करेगा इसको. So ultimately we took it to the censor board, and the censor board saw the film, and we had a rough cut only, and we showed the rough cut. And then there were 4 people in the board, 2 women and 2 men, and they said this film should be banned. I said, "Why?" I said, no, we can't give you a certificate. Then I didn't know what to do. Then I wrote a letter to Mrs. Gandhi, because I knew her even earlier when she was not a politician. I knew her through a German lady in whose school his children were studying. So I knew her. I used to meet her almost every evening in Delhi. So I wrote to her, I said, "I made a film like this, so do please see it." So she said, "Bring it on Sunday to Delhi." I said, "Sunday? It's already Tuesday here, and I get a telegram saying that you come on Sunday with the... And I don't have a print. I have only a rough cut." So I went to Saxeria Sahab in Ramnaud and asked him, I said, "This telegram has come from the Prime Minister, but I don't have money to make a print." So he said, "Don't worry, I'll make a print for you." So he got a print made. Then I took the print and went to the... There were no... except Indian Airlines, there was nothing else. So I went to Indian Airlines in Santa Cruz, and he said, "No, this Dubba can't go." I said, "This is Prime Minister's telegram." He said, "No, this Dubba can't go. You have to put it in the cargo," he said. I said, "The cargo will not reach Delhi. And Sunday is my screening at 10 o'clock. So then I said, "All right, you book it as a cargo, but put it on this same flight on which I am going. Can you do that? That much at least you can oblige." So he obliged that, and then took the print to Delhi, and then somehow managed to take it out from the cargo, and took it to Rashtrapati Bhavan, where there is a small theatre, and showed the film to Mrs. Gandhi. Mrs. Gandhi, Indra Gujral, Muhammad, so many people, Subhadra Joshi and others, they were all there. They came and saw the film, and then Mrs. Gandhi, after the film was over, she said, "Achhi film hai," and went away. Achhi film hai, went away. I ran after Gujral Sahab. I said, "मुझे सेंसर सर्टिफिकेट नहीं मिल रहा है." "ओह अच्छा, इसीलिए यहाँ लाए हो." मैं बात करूँगा, सेंसर बोर्ड से बात करूँगा. Then they discussed the whole thing. Muhammad Yunus was there, and they discussed during the lunch the entire film. They talked about the film, and then they said, "I think we should show this film to all the other Lok Sabha members and MPs. You must show it." So we arranged another show in Films Division in Mahadev Road in Delhi, and all the Congress MPs, they came and saw. Then they said, "You should show it to the opposition also." Otherwise there was another problem. So we called the opposition the next day and showed the opposition. I said, this thing is getting a little too messy. So I said, I must have my own group of people who will support me. So I went to Russian news service, TASS, and there is a theatre there in Barakamba Road. So I asked him, I said, I want to have a screening here. And I called all the journalists from the left parties and things like that, and to come and see the film, but not write about it right now, but just see, so that I have my own lobby. So all the so-called leftists and communists, they came and saw the film. They say, बहुत अच्छी फिल्म है वगैरह वगैरह, मगर कुछ लिखिए नहीं अभी, मैं बताऊंगा कब लिखना है इसके बारे में. So ultimately, it so happened. So this kind of, I was losing all my audience. They were all seeing the film free. Yeah. So then it took 11 months to get a certificate, and it was premiered in January that year, 74, in Paris. There is a very famous critic who is no more now, from Le Monde, Louis Marquerel. So he came, saw the film, and he liked it very much, and he recommended the film to the Cannes people, and it was selected by the Cannes people. After 12 years, there was one Indian film there, and after that, the same year, the Oscar people, they had come to see films in Cannes, and they selected it for the Oscar, and it has been shown in Oscar also. My life is all full of accidents and chance, and that's how today also, by chance, I'm here.
And thank you, and this is a lesson for all of us in terms of how accidents can play out well and persevere in space, and to bring it a little closer home to the world of theatre, in terms of God is in the details, and how, irrespective of how things are separately, to stick to a style, because authenticity need not be originality. Thank you very much, Sathyu sir, for this conversation, and thank you, you guys have been a great audience.
Thank you, Bhagi, and thank you, sir. It really was a joy listening to all of your stories. Thank you very, very much.
Right.
In fact, everyone was so inspired backstage that they redesigned my wardrobe. You know, I went off stage still trying to figure out why they'd asked me to MC. In fact, it was my haircut, and I thought maybe it was because I look good in a suit. But obviously not good enough. So now all I have to say is 2 words. Product placement.